He should have died on the battlefield. Instead, Corporal Elias Ward opened his eyes to a throne room carved from obsidian and starlight. He was bound not by chains, but by bands of liquid light that hummed against his skin like they had a pulse of their own. His breathing was shallow. His armor was gone, stripped away by the alien soldiers who had dragged him from the wreckage. He had no weapons, no orders, only the knowledge that Earth's last orbital defense had fallen, and that he, somehow, was still alive, until the throne itself shifted, and she walked in. Her presence wasn't announced. It didn't need to be. The room grew colder, quieter, reverent. She was taller than a human woman, with violet skin that shimmered with faint silver beneath the glow of the biolamps above. Her hair, if it could be called, that flowed in thick strands of bioluminescent silk that drifted like gravity, was a suggestion. And her eyes, they weren't just alien. They were aware, intelligent, burning gold, watching him like she was already bored of everything else the galaxy had offered her. She stopped just inches from him and smiled. "You are the last human who defied me," she said. Her voice was low, almost melodic. "I expected more teeth." He tried to stand. The restraints pulsed, sending a warm surge through his nerves that forced him back to his knees. "I'm not here to entertain you." She tilted her head. "You misunderstand, soldier. I did not bring you here for entertainment." Her fingers reached forward, and without touching him, the band across his chest retracted. He inhaled sharply, not from freedom, but from the sudden closeness of her skin. It radiated heat, not from anger, something else. "You fought for your planet. You bled for your kind," she said. "You're more loyal than my own generals." He laughed bitterly. "And what? That turns you on?" Her golden eyes narrowed slightly, then she leaned down. Her face was inches from his, lips brushing the air between them. Yes. For 30 seconds, Elias forgot the war, the explosions, the sound of bones breaking, because in that moment, the queen of the Empire wasn't a conqueror. She was a woman, and her breath smelled like something ancient and sweet, like flowers that grew under strange moons. He didn't know when the restraints released completely, but he was no longer held. He didn't move. "I could have killed you," she whispered. "I still might. Then why am I here?" "Because surrender," she said, tracing a line down his collarbone with one glowing fingertip, "can be beautiful when it's given, not taken." She turned then, walking away from him, feet silent against the crystal floor. The air grew heavier as she stepped onto her throne and reclined like a goddess bored with worship. "I've ruled this galaxy with fear," she said softly. "But you, Elias Wardew, made me feel something else. Curiosity, heat. He should have run, should have found something sharp and made it quick. But instead, he rose slowly to his feet, heart pounding, adrenaline shifting to something else entirely. She wasn't forcing him, not with bonds, not with commands. She was inviting him to choose her, or to reject a power no man in the galaxy had ever been offered. He walked toward her, her smirk returned. "You're not afraid of me." "I am," he said truthfully, "but I've felt worse things than fear. And have you ever felt worshipped?" He stopped at the edge of her dais. "Never." "Then kneel." His knees hit the floor, not because she demanded it, but because he wanted to. The act didn't feel like defeat. It felt like discovery. And when her hand slid along his jaw, lifting his gaze to hers, Elias realized he hadn't been captured. He'd been chosen. Elias had knelt for his commanding officer, for medals, for the dying, but never like this. not with his breath trembling against the skin of a creature whose lips curled with every flicker of dominance, whose fingers brushed down his throat like she could feel the defiance draining out of him drop by willing drop. The alien queen said nothing at first, only watched him with those fire-gold eyes as her thumb drew slow, deliberate circles along the edge of his jaw. She was studying him, yes, but also something deeper, like she was reading his pain as a sacred language. "You think surrender is weakness," she murmured, "but I've ruled for 1,000 Earth years by making the strong kneel and making them like it." Ilias's voice caught in his throat. Her touch was warm now, no longer cold with calculation, but magnetically alive. The way she caressed his temple wasn't interrogation, it was revelation. And still, something in him wanted to push back. "You killed thousands," he said, "barely. More than a breath. You burned our cities." "I did," she replied without apology. "But I didn't burn you. Why do you think that is?" He didn't answer. He couldn't, because the truth was too fragile to hold. She hadn't spared him out of pity or strategy. She spared him because somewhere between the blood and silence, she felt something for the man who wouldn't die. The one who'd stood unbroken before her army. Her lips moved closer. "You burned for your world," she whispered. "Now I want to see how you burn. For me." And then she kissed him. Not with delicacy, not with force, but with attention. So precise it made him tremble. Her mouth was warm, full of secrets. Like her kiss carried the memory of every life she'd taken, and every one she wished she hadn't. Her fingers gripped the back of his neck, pulling him to her as her thighs shifted against his sides. Every curve of her alien body molded to his, skin pulsing with heat. Her scent heady and intoxicating stars, silk and smoke. Ilias's hands found her waist, unsure if he was allowed to touch, unsure if this was power or punishment. But she leaned into it, her breath hitching against his mouth, her hands guiding his with a silent command, "Explore." And he did, slowly, reverently, like she was made of something, not just divine, but breakable. The queen gasped softly when his palm pressed against her bare back, his fingers finding the ridged biolite veins that pulsed with her desire. They glowed brighter under his touch. She leaned her forehead to his, eyes closing as if overwhelmed by sensation. "You're different," she breathed. "You made me different." A low, velvety laugh escaped her. "No, you were always this. I only uncovered it." Her body pressed flush against his, and something primal passed between them, not just lust, but understanding. He wasn't just surrendering, he was unburdening, dropping every shattered mission, every dead comrade, every whispered last word that had haunted him. She was taking it all, devouring it, replacing it with the storm of her. "I am not your queen tonight," she whispered against his skin. "I am your war." Their mouths crashed again, desperate, wild, consuming, every kiss deeper than the last, every breath shorter. He felt his body surrender in ways armor never let him. He wanted her not because he was weak, but because she made strength melt into something holy. Their heat built like a tide between stars, and Elias lost track of where she ended and he began. The room darkened, or maybe they were glowing. The throne melted around them into cushions of bio-tissue, cradling their limbs, silencing the galaxy. Her hands were everywhere, tasting, testing, memorizing him like he was the only him left in a forgotten religion. He whispered her name. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe it was just a moan shaped like devotion. But when she stopped, when she pulled back, breathless and trembling, She cupped his face and said something that broke the moment completely. I've waited centuries to feel this. He blinked. What? You think you were just chosen for defiance? She said. No, Elias. I dreamed of you. Before I ever saw your face. Before your kind even reached the stars. I thought the dream was prophecy. Now I know. She looked. Into his eyes. It was memory. And with that, Elias realized he wasn't hers by accident. He was hers by fate. Elias lay beneath her, not conquered, not chained, but entangled in a silence that felt older than time. Her fingers rested against his chest, glowing softly where they touched skin. She was no longer draped in power and command. She was simply watching him bear quiet, like someone who had finally found what she'd been searching for across galaxies. You said you dreamed of me, Elias murmured, still breathless. What does that mean? Her golden eyes glowed with a gentler fire now. She pulled her fingers back from his chest, like she feared her truth might burn him. Varelians don't dream unless we've touched the source of our death, or our salvation. I've never tasted either, and now. She brushed a strand of damp hair from his brow. Now I've tasted both. The light in the room adjusted on its own, casting ripples of lavender and silver against the walls. She sat up, her body still pressed lightly to his, skin gleaming with sweat and starlight. There's a story passed down in my bloodline, she said quietly, of a man who knelt by choice, not submission, a human. One who stared into the heart of a Varelian queen, and made her forget the war. Elias blinked, heart pounding for reasons that had nothing to do with battle now. You think that was me? No, she said. I know it was, because in my dream I kissed you before I ever knew your name. He sat up with her, their foreheads nearly touching again. Why would I surrender to you in another life? Her lips curled. Because you knew I was already surrendering to you. He should have run from words like that, from emotions too big for a soldier raised to kill and bury, but instead, Elias let his hand drift to her waist, pulling her gently back into his lap. You're still the queen of the Varelian Empire, he said. What happens when your people find out you're sleeping with the last Earth soldier? Her breath hitched. Not from fear, from honesty. They'll call it treason, and you'll lose your throne. I'm ready to lose something, she said. For once, I want to know what it's like to choose what I want, not inherit it. The intimacy between them surged again, deeper, now less physical, more magnetic. Her body wasn't just fire, and form it was memory and hunger, the kind that spanned centuries. Elias kissed her again, this time slower, letting her feel every inch of humanity behind it. Not just lust, but grief. Not just heat, but hope. And she kissed him back like he was her only anchor to a galaxy that always expected her to rule with steel. Her hips rolled slowly against him, and the pressure of their bodies became unbearable in the best way. Each motion was sacred, every breath shared. His hands explored her back, memorizing the architecture of someone who had never been held for the sake of feeling. Elias, she whispered, what are we doing? He smiled against her shoulder. Whatever they told us not to. Her laugh was like wind through an open airlock, startled, reckless, free. She arched into him, their bodies moving in harmony again, not driven by domination, but devotion. Her lips found his throat, his hands gripped her thighs. The rhythm between them wasn't conquest, was communion. And as they fell back into each other's orbit, neither one knew where war ended and worship began. When the silence returned, thick with aftermath and stardust, she collapsed beside him. Her hand found his in the dark, and for a long time they just breathed. "You still think this is surrender?" she asked softly. "No," he replied, pulling her fingers to his lips. "I think this is survival." She turned toward him. "Then, let's survive together." But the moment cracked as a sharp tone echoed through the chamberan alert. Her entire body tensed. She sat up fast, eyes flaring gold again. "What is it?" Elias asked, suddenly cold. Her voice was steel now. "My general. He's come for me, and he's brought the entire fleet." Elias rose with her, already scanning the shadows. "Why?" "Because," she said, voice trembling, "the Empire just declared me unfit to rule. They know I touched you. They know I chose you." The words hit like ice. "And now they're coming to take you from me." The throne room darkened as the alert pulsed through the walls, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat gone wrong. Elias stood at the Queen's side, still half naked, the glow of her touch fading from his skin. She wore nothing now but the tension of leadership cracking beneath the weight of emotion. Her golden eyes no longer looked like fire. They looked like fear. "They won't just take me," he said quietly. "They'll kill me, and you." She nodded once, slowly. "Unless we move first." Outside, the Varelian fleet was already shifting in orbit. From her throne's neural command stem, she touched a panel with 2 fingers. A projection of the general appeared tall, pale blue-skinned, with eyes like frostbitten stone. "Queen Veshtari," he said, venom in every syllable, "your reign ends now. You will be escorted to the Citadel for questioning, and the human war criminal will be disposed of." Elias stepped forward before she could speak. "I'd like to see you try." The general didn't even flinch. "You already have. Earth is ash." The Queen's hand landed on Ilias's arm, not to stop him but to anchor him. Her voice cut through the projection with a sharp, calculated heat. "You forget who I am, Commander. I may have surrendered my body to him, but not my mind or my power." "You surrendered your throne," the general growled. "And for what? Flesh?" "No," she said. "For freedom, for truth, for the first honest thing I've ever felt in a room full of liars like you." The feed cut with a flick of her wrist. She turned to Eliaspa, vulnerable, beautiful, and asked, "Can you still fight?" "I never stopped." They moved quickly. She summoned her warskin, the living armor crawling over her like liquid night. Elias pulled on the tunic offered to him from the Queen's private chamber foreign fabric, but it fit like it was made for him. They looked at each other for a long, still second. "I've killed for my kind," Elias said. "But I've never fought for someone like you." She stepped closer. "And I've never bled for anyone until you." He touched her cheek. "Then let's bleed together." They made their way through the palace, side by side, her guards frozen in confusion, some bowing, others questioning, but none stopping them. Queen Vestari barked a single order: "Anyone who tries to take him from me will meet my wrath." Outside, the warships had descended lower, their weapons charged, their skies burning with anti-graviton streaks. The general wasn't just removing her, he was starting a coup. Veshtari led Elias to the control core of the planetary defense station. The room shimmered with hundreds of floating glyphs and energy nodes tech even Elias had no name for. "They're jamming my fleet's loyalty protocols," she said. "If we don't get control now, they'll turn the palace to glass." Elias stepped to her side, staring down the impossible interface. "Tell me what to do. You trust me that much." He leaned in, kissing her hard, fast, final. Enough to die. Her lips trembled as she whispered, then live instead. With their hands joined, she transferred partial command to him through neural sync. He winced at the surge memories, not his, visions of old wars, betrayals, victories, all etched into her bloodline. It was intimate, terrifying, divine in that moment. He wasn't just human, he was hers. They worked in tandem, dodging pulse scans, overriding targeting protocols, locking down the inner palace shield. Fire bloomed across the horizon. The general's ship opened fire. The throne chamber shook. Veshtari hissed, blood streaking from her nose. One of the core relays is failing. Elias turned to her, then reroute it through me. You won't survive that, he grinned. You said I was born from your dreams. Maybe I was born to survive this. He grabbed the relay interface, felt his nerves fry and pulse all at once as alien current tore through his spine. He screamed, she screamed with him, but he didn't let go. The override worked, the fleet blinked on the screen, and one by one, the warships powered down. Elias collapsed to the ground, chest heaving, blood seeping from his mouth. She caught him, cradling his body against hers, shaking with panic and awe. Why did you do that? She whispered, tears streaking down her. Violet cheeks. Because, he gasped, if I'm going to die, it should be in your arms. She held him tighter, pressing her lips to his forehead. No, she said, you're not dying. And her tears, those bioluminescent drops of power, began to sink into his skin, glowing, healing, changing him. He should have died on that floor. Elias had felt his body breaking bones, screaming, blood boiling from the alien overload, but something impossible surged into him. Not pain, not death. Her tears weren't just water, they were woven with molecular memory, the ancient power of her bloodline. As they seeped into him, something shifted. Skin repaired, breath returned, his heartbeat changed slower, heavier, louder. No longer just human when he opened his eyes. She was still holding him, arms trembling, face streaked with glowing rivers of grief and awe. I thought I lost you, she whispered. You didn't, he said, voice deeper, laced with something new. You brought me back. She touched his chest, felt the rhythm beneath. It pulsed like hers now. Not entirely Varelian, not entirely human, but something in between. I didn't mean to change you, she said, terrified and tender. The tears, they were never meant for anyone not of my kind. It could have destroyed you. It didn't, he said, because I chose it, like I chose you. She collapsed into him, their lips finding each other again, with the hunger of survival, but the ache of knowing the galaxy would never accept what they were becoming. Outside, the skies calmed. The fleet, without their general who had been captured in the chaos, no longer fired. But inside the palace, a different war raged. The council had already sent envoys. Her people demanded her resignation. To lie beside a human was treason. To love him, a death sentence in legacy. But that night, as the stars spun across the glass canopy above that bed, Queen Veshtari made a choice no one else would have dared. She removed her crown. Elias stood across the room, silent, shirtless, the biolite scars from his resurrection still glowing faintly on his back. Are you sure? He asked. I didn't survive 1,000 years of ruling, she said, placing the crown into a velvet box, just to die without ever being alive. He crossed to her and pulled her close. Their foreheads touched. She smelled like starfire again. And trust, you're giving it all up. For me, I'm not giving anything up, she whispered. I'm finally taking something without permission. For once in my life, they didn't sleep that night. They made promises in the dark. They marked each other with slow hands and sacred words. Her breath shook as he kissed each scar beneath her collarbone, as she kissed the place where death had tried to end him. And together, they carved a rhythm older than politics and sharper than war, a rhythm made from defiance, devotion, and heat that would never be written in royal archives. They didn't ask the galaxy to accept them. They dared it to try and stop. Then by morning, they stood at the edge of the palace, shoulder to shoulder. Her guards didn't bow. They watched in silence. Elias wore the deep grey armor of a Varelian guardian, symbolic, ceremonial. She wore a flowing mantle of black and violet, not as a queen, but as a woman who had survived her own bloodline's expectations. The transmission went out across all systems. Queen Veshtari, now enthroned, spoke the words herself. I have loved the galaxy in silence, in diplomacy, in cruelty, but never in truth, until now. If loving a human makes me unfit to rule, then let history remember me not as your queen, but as the first Varelian to love without permission. Elias took her hand, and the universe didn't collapse. It held its breath. Final line, they weren't written in the stars. They rewrote them